will start in Savasana, setting our intentions for the practice. Focus on what you want to bring into your life and what you are needing to let go of in order to allow that change and shift. We'll remain in Savasana while setting our intentions. Just relax into it. Clear your mind. Let go of your stress. Forget about your worries of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year. Just focus on your breath. You can keep your hands by your sides with your palms facing up, just surrendering to the practice. Slowly rotate your head and neck to look out over your right shoulder. Deep breaths. And then slowly rotate your head and neck back to neutral. And then rotate to look over your left shoulder. Being intentional with your breathing. And then head and neck back to neutral. Stretch out long with your hands overhead, pointing your toes out like a long kitty cat stretch. And then we're going to hug the right knee for several breaths. You have the option to engage your foot, flexing your heel, rotating your ankle. Continue hugging that knee, paying close attention to the micro movements and the compression in your right hip socket. Then you can pick up your canvas strap and place it across the ball of your right foot, and then straighten your leg out, holding that strap. You might want to have your knee bent. You might want to straighten it. You might want to do a little bit of both. And then we're going to swing that right leg out to the right side, still in the strap if you like, and hold that there. It's a big stretch. Then as you lower your right leg back down to the mat and set your strap aside, we'll switch legs, hugging the left knee. Again, you can engage that foot and ankle by flexing and pointing your toes, rotating your foot, hugging your left knee tightly. And again, paying close attention to the micro movements and focusing on that compression in your left hip socket. Then pick up your strap again and place the canvas across the ball of your left foot, straightening out that leg. Hold it there. You are free to bend the knee slightly if you wish. Then you're going to swing that left leg out to the left side, again with the strap or without if you'd rather. And we're going to hold that. So then coming out of the half straddle, you'll set the strap aside again, lowering that foot back down to the ground. Both legs are out straight, stretching the arms out long overhead again, pointing your toes. And then hug both of your knees tightly. Continue to hold your right knee while lowering your left leg back down to the mat. Breathe into that. Then we're going to place the right knee onto the left side of your body for the supine twist. Arms can be in a T. Keep your drishti or your gaze out over your right fingertips. You have the option to use your left hand to apply a light pressure to your right knee if you wish. I often like to use a bolster under my knee. You can do this with props or without if you'd like to have a pillow or a block under your knee. Keeping your gaze out over your right fingertips. Just relax into that lovely supine twist. Just feel that release. And then you're going to turn your head slowly to look over your left shoulder. Hold your gaze out over the left fingertips for two full breaths. And then slowly turn the head and neck back to be looking out over the right shoulder again. And then slowly back to neutral. And you can lower that right leg back to the floor, hugging in both of your knees together, head and neck towards the knees, rocking and rolling. And then lowering your right leg to the floor while continuing to hold on to that left knee. Hold there for a few breaths. Then we're going to bring that left knee across the body to place on the floor or on a prop on the right side of yourself for the supine twist. Again, arms can be in a T, keeping your gaze out over your left fingertips this time. And if you like, using the right hand to apply that light pressure to the left knee at any point. Such a great twist. Just appreciate the power and the release. Then slowly we're going to turn the head and neck to the right, looking out over the right fingertips. Deep breaths. And then slowly rotating your head and neck to be looking out over the left fingertips again. And then back to neutral. Lower your left leg back down to the floor, coming out of the twist, stretching your arms long overhead, and hugging both knees again, stretching the neck, rotating both ankles, engaging your feet. Flex your heels, point your toes. You can do this in unison or opposite each other. And then we're going to get into the reclined butterfly. You may want a bolster or blocks under your knees or thighs. Arms are down by your sides, palms facing up, surrendering to your practice. And then slowly glide your arms across the floor into the half moon and then overhead, getting your hands into the steeple grip. Hold that stretch, reclined butterfly with hands in steeple grip. And then glide your arms on the floor again, back down to your sides like butterfly wings. Hands or palms are still facing up. Slowly, we're going to stretch the arms out to the sides again, bringing them back up overhead in that half moon, and touching fingertips to each other in prayer hands. Keeping your arms outstretched overhead. Fingers and thumbs can be touching lightly. You can have your hands in steeple grip again. You can do whatever is comfortable here. If you want to branch your arms out or arms in a T, whatever works for you. We'll continue to stay in this reclined butterfly. If you have any props, you'll want to remove them at this point. And then we're going to get into reclined tree pose on each side. First, straighten out your left leg and keep the sole of your right foot against the inseam of your left thigh as high as you can. Keeping those prayer hands or steeple grip or however you're holding your arms. Then we're going to simply switch sides, straightening out your right leg and placing the sole of your left foot high to the inseam of your right thigh. Arms are still overhead, branched out, goalpost, steeple grip, yogi's choice. And then we're going to reach for the strap Get the canvas across the balls of both of your feet for legs up the wall. Knees can be straight or bent slightly. You can pedal your feet and knees out. You can rock, you can wiggle, anything you wish. While continuing with the legs up the wall. Keep your left foot in that strap across the ball of the foot while you remove the right foot from the strap and place it across your left thigh for reclined pigeon. You can bend that knee slightly as an option, or you can keep it straightened, or some of each, straightening and bending. Then we're going to switch out the feet, get your right foot back into that strap, removing your left foot and placing your left ankle across your right thigh for reclining pigeon on the other side. Again, you have that option to bend the knee or straighten it, or a little bit of both. Coming out of this, you can set your strap down by the side of yourself or overhead and then lay flat. We're going to do 3 honey bumblebee breaths. 3 fingers covering your eyes, thumbs on your ear cartilage, pressing your thumbs down on that tragus, closing off the airway into your ears, breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. We're going to hum low pitch 3 times as we breathe out. After that, get ready to flip yourself over, slowly turning to the left or to the right to lay prone on your front side. You can rest your head on your hands, laying on top of each other, just relaxing while we prepare for another twist. You can come up onto your elbows and forearms into Sphinx. Hike up your right knee out to the side with your right arm out in front of you. And with your left arm, you can thread the needle. Make any adjustments for this pose that you need as you get into the supine twist once again. You can simply place your right hand onto your right hip, or you can straighten out that right arm, trying to lay your shoulders and your arms flat on the ground. Or you can just keep that right hand on your right hip. And again, you can use the bolster or pillow or block to support your supine twist. Keeping your drishti out over your right fingertips, At any point, again, you can use your left hand to apply that slight pressure to your right knee. Take note of the difference from the last supine twist, having gotten into the pose from an entirely different sequence of prompts and directives. Also note the similarities along with those differences. And when you're ready, you can come out of the twist, again resting your head on your hands, laying them on top of one another for several breaths. And then you can lift your feet up off the mat, bending both knees, and windshield wiper the feet and calves back and forth, side to side. Slow that down, lower your feet back down to the mat, and then we'll come back up onto the forearms and elbows and hands into the Sphinx pose again. This time hiking your left knee up to the left side and reaching your left arm out in front of you and threading the needle with your right arm. And as you shift into the supine twist, you can place your left hand on your left hip, same as the other side. You can adjust yourself so that both shoulders and arms are flat on the ground in a T, or simply keep your left hand on your left hip. Either way, you're going to keep your drishti out over your left shoulder. And again, you have the option to apply that light pressure with the right hand onto your left knee if you wish. Enjoy this twist, again, noticing those similarities and differences from the last supine twist, and even from the other side. And then when you're done coming out of this twist, again, rest your head on your hands, stacked lightly on top of one another, and this time in a very exaggerated motion, really windshield wiper those feet and knees back and forth, loosening the hips out a great deal. Slowing that down, and then lower your feet back down to the ground. Then we're going to send our hips back towards the feet, getting into a wide knee child pose. You can use a block, a bolster, or a pillow if you'd like to rest your head on. We're going to hold this position for several deep breaths, really relaxing the torso, ragdolling that upper portion of your body, allowing gravity to do the work for you. Simply lean into it. And then when you're done, remove the prop if you have one, coming into a tabletop motion, and then back into Sphinx. This time on your arms, your elbows, and your forearms, again, spreading your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can, holding that Sphinx pose tall. And then turn your right forearm to be parallel with the top of the mat, reaching back with your left hand to your left foot, holding this half bow for several breaths. When you're ready, you can take a minute here to attempt the full bow if you would like. You can use a strap if you need to, or if you have someone that can spot you, whatever it takes to get both of your feet into each of your hands. What I like to do is let go of the one foot, try to reach back with my right hand to grab my right foot, and then grab my left foot again. It's different day to day. Might want to use the strap. You might not be able to do it in that event. Don't sweat it. Just do whatever stretching is comfortable for you. There's some days where I just can't do this one. It's funny because I can do it easily on some days, but it just depends, right? So explore this full bow shape. If you want, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock, or you can remain still, or some of each. It's a very challenging pose. Nice chest opener. And then as you let go of your feet, you can rest your head on your hands again, one hand on top of the other. And again, windshield wipering those feet, really loosening the hips out too. And then slow that down, lower your feet back down to the floor. And the same thing on the other side. Coming back into Sphinx, stretching your hands and fingers out as wide as you can. Sitting tall. Before then turning your left forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat. And reaching with your right hand back to hold your right foot. Engage in this half bow for several breaths. And then just like on the other side, if it's in your practice, you can attempt the full bow. Again, using your strap, having a partner spot you, whatever it is that you need to support yourself in this challenge of full bow. And again, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock yourself back and forth, or you can try to remain still, or some of each. Again, when letting go, lower both feet to the mat, and now send your hips back to sit on your feet in child's pose, just regular child's pose this time. And while sitting on your feet, you can rest your forehead on a block. We're going to be here for a bit. Relax into it. Again, allow gravity to do the work for you, and just really ragdoll that torso, leaning into it. And then you can use your fingers to walk your hands, or you can just slide your hands to the right edge of the mat, reaching for the upper right corner of the mat, feeling the stretch extend across your lower left ribs, and then sliding or walking your fingers and hands back to neutral, and then slide or walk hands and fingers to the left edge of the mat, reaching towards the upper left corner. Focus on the extension in the lower right ribs, and then you can glide or walk your fingers and hands back to neutral. Take a couple of deep breaths in this child's pose, and then you can use your hands to push yourself up into lightning bolt pose, pausing here for a few moments. You might want to use blocks or props here. You might want to just place your hands on your thighs, remaining still, noting the challenge of this seemingly simple pose. It's a good posture to just relax into. Maybe hands over heart, prayer hands over heart. Maybe rising those prayer hands up and then bringing them down again. Hands on your thighs. And then we're going to come up onto our knees. You might want to reach for a couple of blocks if you don't already have them, and widen your stance out a little bit. I like to set one block next to each foot, reaching back towards my feet as I set them down. And then I like to interlace my fingers behind myself and turn my hands and arms inside out and try to raise them up some. A really, really good chest opener and good balancing. And just relaxing into it, looking up at the ceiling or the sky if you're outside. And then I'd like to move into this camel pose by then releasing my hands and reaching for each of the blocks one at a time, or maybe both, depending on your level of flexibility today. Leaning back, really stretching out your torso, arching your back. Maybe you're holding the blocks, maybe not. Maybe you're touching them to the floor. Or maybe you're so flexible you're grabbing your ankles behind you. That's a rough one. I might get there the next year. Then as you come back up, let's sit on to your feet again into that lightning bolt pose and just feeling the stress and the tension in your muscles and your body relaxing. And then we're going to swing your legs out in front of yourself for staff pose. With props, we're going to make a stack of pillows, maybe a bolster or blocks on top of your legs on your lap. You can pile the props so that you can then ragdoll your upper body over your legs, resting your torso onto the stack of pillows. Alternatively, you can use the strap on the balls of your feet for the same type of effect here, if you don't have props or you don't want to use them. We're going to hold this for an extended period. Really lean into this. Envision tilting your hips towards your feet, towards your toes. Again, allowing gravity to do the work for you. Simply focus on easing your weight forward more and more, trusting that gravity will completely support you and take care of you, keep you safe and healthy. Just lean into it, breathe into it. when you're ready to remove the props, coming up, bringing your torso up, keep your left leg stretched out long and bring the right foot high to the inseam of the left thigh. Reaching for your left toes with your left hand in a side bend. Maybe reaching your right hand over the left foot and hand. Again, relax into it, trusting gravity. And then coming out of this, we'll get into a wide straddle stretch for a minute. Both legs out long. Simply lean forward for a couple of deep breaths. And then we're going to switch it out to the other side, bending your left knee and placing that left foot to the inner right thigh. Reaching for the right toes with your right hand, and then reaching your left hand over your right foot and hand. Breathe into it, lean into it. And then as you come up, stretch both legs back out into that wide straddle again. Leaning forward, reaching in front of yourself, and you might want to rest your forehead on a couple of blocks stacked on top of each other. Take a few deep, intentional breaths. And then we're going to come up and get into a seated butterfly, bringing the soles of your feet together with both hands, pushing knees down towards the floor, sitting tall, and then bending your head and neck towards your feet. And slowly rising your head back up to neutral as if you have a string pulling from the top of your head. And then we will twist our head and neck to the right. Back to neutral. And then to the left. And back to neutral. Stretch the neck, head down, rolling it out first in small motions. You might want to turn your head side to side like you're indicating a no. You might want to stretch the neck muscles out diagonally, leaning your head from side to side. You might want to nod your head as if indicating a yes. And then if you're comfortable with it and it's in your practice, you can do a full circle rotation in one direction and then a full circle rotation in the other direction. And then you're going to bring your head back to neutral before then shifting into easy pose. drop your right ear to your right shoulder. You have an option here to use a light pressure with your right fingertips on the top of your head. If you want, you can move the head and neck slightly back and forth to gently massage out the neck muscles. And then allow your head and neck to go back to neutral before dropping your left ear to your left shoulder. And again, you can apply that slight pressure with your left fingertips if you wish. And again, option to move the head and neck slightly back and forth to give yourself an extra neck massage before then bringing your head back to neutral. Again, turn your head slowly to the right, looking as far over your right shoulder as you can, and then back to neutral, and the same thing to the left, looking as far as you can over your left shoulder, and then back to neutral. And now we're going to bring ourselves into that wide straddle again, leaning forward. You might want to use those blocks in front of you to rest your forehead on again. And we're going to remain in this stretch for an extended period. Then you can pick up the blocks in each of your hands, reaching over your left foot, placing those blocks on either side of your foot, resting your hands on each of the blocks if you wish, or you can be reaching for your toes with both hands. Again, allow gravity to do a lot of this work for you. Lean into it. Breathe into it, just letting go. And then you can pick up each of those blocks and place them on either side of your right foot, reaching for your right toes with both hands, or resting each of your hands on each of the blocks. And again, allowing gravity to do the work for you, leaning into it, releasing stress and tension. And then coming back up to neutral, you can set the blocks aside. Our next pose will be bending our right knee over our left leg, extended out straight, twisting to the right, gazing to the back of the room. Right hand or fist is on the floor behind you. Your arm is supporting your torso. You can use your left elbow or your left arm to leverage on the right knee. Turning your gaze as far to the back wall as you can. Keeping that leverage on the knee with the elbow. And then slowly turn your head and your neck to be looking out over your left shoulder towards the front of the room. Deep breath, and then slowly turning your gaze to be looking out over your right shoulder again towards the back of the room. All neutral while continuing to leverage that left elbow on the right knee. And then as we come out of this twist, we'll simply switch sides, bending the left knee over the right leg, extending out straight. Left hand or fist on the floor behind you, gazing over that left shoulder towards the back of the room, leveraging your right arm or elbow against your left knee. Breathing into this stretch. Feel the power of this twist. And then, while continuing to leverage that elbow or arm on the knee, slowly turn your gaze to be looking out over the right shoulder towards the front of the room, and then back to be looking over your left shoulder again towards the back of the room. Continuing with the leverage of that right elbow on the left knee. And then back to neutral, coming out of this twist. We will next hold the soles of the feet together, getting into the butterfly. Again, pressing those knees towards the floor. Sitting up tall, before then bending the head and neck down. And again, like you've got that string from the top of your head, slowly rise your head with perfect posture and gently turn the head and neck to the right, and then neutral, then back to the left, and then back to neutral. And now we're going to get into cow face and then Lord of the Fish. I almost said Lord of the Flies. Bend the right knee over the left knee that's also bent, stacking them on top of each other for cow face. Holding each of your feet in each of your hands. You can sit up tall. You can massage your feet if you'd like. You can use your thumbs to press into the arches of your feet. And then we're going to twist to the right. The right arm is in back. The left elbow leverages against the right knee. Your drishti is towards the back of the room. Really get into this twist. Slowly, we're going to turn the head and neck to look out over the left shoulder towards the front of the room. Continuing to leverage the elbow on the knee, and then keeping your drishti towards the back of the room once again over the right shoulder. And then we're going to straighten out both legs in front of ourselves for staff pose, reaching the arms out overhead to the sides in that half moon arch, and then up towards the sky, interlacing your fingers and turning both hands outward and reaching up tall for 2 full breaths. And then we're going to bend forward, reaching for the toes. Then coming up and preparing to switch legs for cow face on the other side. The left knee is stacked on top of the right bent knee. Holding both feet, massaging them if you wish, sitting up tall. You can use your thumbs to push into the arches of each foot for a moment if you'd like. And get ready to twist to the left. Your right arm is leveraging against the left knee this time, looking out over the left shoulder towards the back of the room. Slowly, we're going to turn the head and neck to gaze over the right shoulder towards the front of the room. And then slowly returning the gaze back over the left shoulder towards the back of the room once again, all while continuing to leverage that right elbow against the left knee. And then as you come back into neutral, out of this twist, return to staff pose. Legs out in front of you, again reaching your arms out wide in that half moon arch. Touching hands lightly overhead. You can do steeple grip if you would like, or just prayer hands, reaching high towards the ceiling. Before then, leaning over to reach for your toes. And as you come up to neutral, transition into easy pose, reaching those arms out to the sides and then up overhead for the half moon arch, touching your hands together lightly for prayer hands before getting into cactus arms, preparing for eagle arms. From cactus or goalpost, we will bring our forearms together with the right elbow over the left elbow first, hands together, pushing elbows up slightly and bending the head and neck down slightly. Just feel that stretch across your upper back and neck and shoulder blades. Such a nice release. You can continue looking down, or you also have an option to slowly look up, raising your head and neck and arms all together as one. Leaning your head back slightly while pushing your eagle arms towards the sky until they unpretzel themselves, and then reaching them back out wide, touching to the floor, and then arching them back up overhead in another half moon. Touching hands together briefly for prayer hands overhead, and then back to cactus. And again, eagle arms, this time with the left elbow over the right elbow. Pushing those elbows up slightly, hands together, bending the head and neck down slightly. Such a nice stretch across the shoulder blades and neck. Again, you have that same option to slowly move your glance and your head and your arms all up, leaning your head back slightly, looking up at the ceiling as high as possible, pushing your elbows and arms up as they unpretzel again, and then stretching those arms out wide to the sides, reaching out to touch the earth, bringing them back up overhead, and another half moon to steeple grip, sitting tall. Deep breath. And then we're going to do a simple twist, lowering the arms down with the right hand behind you, left hand on the right knee. Then cross your right arm over the left arm to hold your left knee with your right hand, moving your left hand to the floor behind you, and then bringing that left hand back, crossing the left arm over the right arm to hold the right knee with the left hand, and then can hug yourself lightly in this basket position. Take a moment here to do a boat pose. I like to hug my forearms under the backs of my legs to get into a good boat pose here. You can also do that without hugging your arms together, and if you know boat pose, just your legs are risen up into the air and your arms are parallel to the floor. If you like, you can do some scissoring of your legs to get a little extra abdominal work before then laying down on your back onto the floor, stretching out long, before then planting both feet on the floor, knees bent. You might want to hold a block or a pillow between the knees, and possibly blocks or pillows on either side of you. Just allow your knees to fall to the right. Arms are in a T. Going to relax into this simple pose while gazing out over the left fingertips. Slowly rotate your head to look out the other direction to the right, glancing out over your right fingertips. And then moving your head and neck back again to be keeping your drishti over your left fingertips once again, before bringing the head and neck back to neutral. Then bring knees to neutral and simply allow those knees to fall to the left, still with the arms in a T, gazing out over your right fingertips, just relaxing into this simple stretch. Then slowly you can turn your head to be glancing out over your left fingertips, and slowly turning back to bring your gaze again over your right fingertips, and then head and neck back to neutral, knees back to neutral. You can remove any props and hug in both of your knees tightly, bending the head and neck towards the knees. Engage those feet, flex your heels, point your toes, rotate your ankles, either in unison or opposite one another, or some of each. And then we're going to plant both feet firmly on the mat again, still laying on your back. Put your right knee over your left knee and allow both legs to fall to your right. Arms are in a T. Gaze is over your left fingertips. This is my all-time favorite of all the twists. I just love this one. The grand finale. Breathe into the power of this stretch. Feel those muscles, your hip, your glutes. Then we're going to take our head and neck to glancing out over the right fingertips. And then head and neck back to neutral, bringing your knees up to neutral. You can hug in both knees. Again, rocking and rolling if you would like to. And again, firmly plant both feet onto the mat and the left knee bending over the right knee and allowing both legs to fall to the left. Arms are in that T, glancing out over your right fingertips. Enjoy this final twist. Then slowly rotate your head and neck to bring your drishti out over your left fingertips. Slowly back again to be glancing over your right fingertips. Really enjoy this final stretch, and then you can release your knees back to neutral, hugging in both knees. Any movement you would like to do. Here you have an opportunity for happy baby if you would like. You can rock the baby, maybe alternating, straightening, and slightly bending each knee. Whatever movement you'd like to do here. Before we get into our relaxing supported bridge pose. After you're done with the happy baby, lay flat and then reach for a block for supported bridge. Plant both feet firmly on the mat, lifting up the hips. Slide the block under the small of your back on its lowest level. We're going to remain in the supported bridge for several breaths. Just relaxing into it. And then while you're still on the block, you can reach for your strap, or you can do without a strap. But if you like to get the canvas across the balls of both feet, we're going to get into legs up the wall. Again, with or without the strap. Personally, I really like to use the strap for legs up the wall if I'm not using an actual wall. Oh, doggy. Sleep barks. Let's see. So after you're done with that, you can remove the strap, remove the block, set the strap aside. Hey Mookie, come here baby. If it's in your practice, there's an option here for the shoulder stand at the plow. Mookie, you can take a minute or two to do these, or yogi's choice, any stretch that you would like. Feel free to get into Savasana early and we meet you there. Should you be in your shoulder stand, you might want to point your toes tall. You might want to scissor your legs long, or any movements that you're inclined to do. Before then transitioning into the plow. I like to first lower my toes as close to the floor as I can get them while keeping my arms on the floor behind me. And then I like to slowly bring my arms up overhead to touch my toes, maybe hold my ankles, maybe keeping the legs straightened or bending the knees, or some of each, before coming out of the plow as slow and controlled as possible with chin tucked, rolling yourself down on the mat one vertebrae at a time to relax into the Savasana. Remembering the intentions that you set at the start of this practice. Thank yourself for taking the time out of your day to focus on your well-being, to focus on you. As we bring awareness back into the room and into our bodies, might want to wiggle your fingers or toes. Eventually you can roll onto one side or the other and just relax there momentarily. Or if it's comfortable for you, you have an option to rock slightly with your chin tucked and come up onto both elbows behind yourself, straightening your arms out behind you, transitioning into easy pose. Or if you're on your side, you can push yourself up now and transition into that easy pose. Placing your left hand on the right knee, right hand on the floor behind you, lightly twisting to the right, then crossing your right arm over your left arm, right hand onto the left knee, and reaching your left hand behind you for a light twist on the other side, before then crossing that left arm over the right, holding the right knee with your left hand before hugging yourself into this basket shape. First, hugging yourself lightly, and then make yourself into a small ball or seed and hug yourself in as tightly as you can, making yourself as small as you can. Squeezing yourself in before releasing, and then sitting back into easy pose, stretching your arms up out wide to the sides into a star shape, and then placing each hand on each of your knees, touching the pointer finger to the thumbs on each hand. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, chanting Om 3 times in a low pitch. And then stretch the arms out wide again for that half moon arch, bringing the arms up overhead to prayer hands, sitting tall, pausing briefly before lowering your prayer hands to hands over heart, and then reaching your hands back out wide overhead into that half moon arch again for prayer hands. And then this time, on your way to hands and heart, touch your thumbs or your knuckles to your third eye to acknowledge your insight and wisdom as you bring your hands, your prayer hands over heart. And then we will bow to close and seal the practice. And so it is. Thank you for this.